All right, so why settle in Canaan? Because it is good for farming. And there's lots of good spots for it. You have the coastal plains, which are right by the Mediterranean Sea. You have along the Jordan River, which we've talked about river valleys this whole year thus far. And also around the Sea of Galilee is going to be fantastic places. Now, looking at this map, what places might be more difficult to settle on? What do you think, Danny?
The more inland dry areas.
Exactly. Anything with that tanner brown and anything that's more inland. I love how you said it that way. See, these areas, coastal plains, because they're close to the sea, they're going to get more rainfall. But especially when you get to the Transjordan highlands, when they're too high, and the central highlands kind of have this problem too, they're not going to get the rain. The Negev is actually a desert too. So fantastic. All right. So why are the coastal plains so great? Well, because they get lots of rain and they grow some of the best crops for the ancient world. Wheat, which is fantastic to eat, olives, which are good to eat but better to smush into oil. We're going to talk a lot about olive oil this year. And grapes, which are also great to eat but better for them to smush and juice and turn into wine. So we see with these two crops, olives and grapes, those are going to be what we call cash crops, things that are going to make lots of money because olive oil is going to be tremendously useful to the ancient world. So not only is it something that like we today, we pretty much only use it for cooking, but back then, they used it to have for oil lamps, so for fire. They use it to lubricate or make things slippery when you need to. Goodness gracious, you're not going to believe this, but they actually even used olive oil to help clean themselves because they would put the oil like on their arm and then use something like a seashell to scrape, and the oil would pick up all the dirt and stuff like that and exfoliate your skin, making it just wonderful. The girls probably know what exfoliating skin is.
No.
All right. Now, disadvantages though. Why is it not perfect? First off, there's no river. So if you don't have rain, you are in trouble because you won't have any access to fresh water. Someone might be thinking that, but what about the sea, Mr. Kenny? Well, guess what? You can't drink seawater. It'll dehydrate you because all the salt in there, it'll actually pull the moisture from your organs, drive you insane, and then you die. It's not a good thing to do. Also, some spots are rocky and hilly, so not ideal for farming. Next. The Jordan River. Now, the Jordan River seems like naturally going to be one of the best places because it's a fresh water source. And here's the thing. Just like so many of you guys wanted to talk about when we got to Egypt, you have it where, the water, it's going to provide them the ability to go fishing. Think about it too. Animals are going to come to the water to go and, oops, sorry about that. I didn't even realize I did that by accident. My apologies. Animals are going to come to the water because they need to drink too. So this is going to be an area where we're going to have lots of domesticated animals. And of course, we know by a river is fertile soil. But here's the thing. The Jordan River is going to be different than the Tigris, Euphrates, and Nile rivers we've already talked about. Why? What is going to be the problem? What, Kirthana? Yes, darling.
It has no flooding. It has no river flooding or silt.
Exactly. So the land will be fertile, but not as fertile as the Tigris, Euphrates, or Nile because they don't have the silt. There's no big area to make it so that all of the water will go overflow the river. For the Nile and the Tigris, Euphrates, all of those rivers, they were sourced from really tall mountains that had snow capped on them. So when the snow would melt, it would go rush down. They just don't have that. So it won't be as excellent as those locations, but it will still be a good location. Now we have the Sea of Galilee. Much like with the Jordan River, we have this idea of it's fresh water, so wildlife fish are going to be there, and it was big fresh water, so you could have towns and farming near it. There will be some irrigation, but not as much as you'd think around the Sea of Galilee, and it's pretty great land, and we don't have any real downsides for the Sea of Galilee. Just you can't fit too many people around it because it's a small spot. We call it a sea. It's really more like a lake with its size. Okay, you need to focus on history instead of looking at the check. All right. Plus, she's one of our teachers here, so show her lots of respect. She is Mrs. Laskowski to you. All right. Now we're going to start getting into some of the bad areas to go. And this is kind of more interesting to get you familiar with the area. Don't be too worried about, I'm not going to be like on a quiz, name the top 3 places to live. I might say, what kinds of places would be better to live in? And like near rivers or the sea of Galilee or the coast, which I guess either sea you could just say. Dead Sea. Some people see this big body of water and they say, this is going to be a great, but no, the Dead Sea would not. Now, who thinks they know what these big things are on the bottom of this picture here?
Salt.
Yes, it is salt. That is all salt. That's a lot of salt, even more salt than you guys use to make your mummies. Which, by the way, keep checking them to make sure they're not getting moist and gross. I checked mine yesterday. They're looking good, so we'll go maybe another week before I do another show of how to change the stuff. But the Dead Sea is super duper salty. It is so salty, nothing can live there. All right? Nothing can live in it. People actually, they love to visit the Dead Sea, and it's really cool. They go, and you can float in it really, really well. It is great, though, because you can have trade, have transportation, because you can put a boat on it. But, yeah, it's 6 times saltier than the ocean. It's just wild. Yes, Zoe?
I saw this on a planet about, a show about Earth, and it's because the density of the ocean is much higher, so it's closer to being solid than other oceans because of the salt level.
Very cool. Thank you for going and adding that. I love it. Okay. So let's I guess we'll finish it up. We might have to push the map back, just looking at the time. So what are some other areas that are not good for farming? Well, of course, the mountains, the highlands. Now, once again, I am not going to be going and asking you specifics on this sort of thing. This is just more getting the idea of the land, all right? Now, we're going to see that some people are going to choose to live in what's called the Negev, which is going to be a desert. And I think we're getting there now. Yes. So, these areas are going to be only for nomads. They're for herders. They're hard to farm. It's going to be very dry, not so much rain, and people are going to be going to and fro so that, going to different oases and different areas to be able to survive. And we've talked a little bit about nomads before. We're going to talk more about nomads a little bit later on. So, my cherubs, that is going to be our notes for the day. So just to double check to make sure that we've got this going well. And I'm going to stop the recording, by the way.